Hi, thank you for joining me today for another process video, and today I'm documenting some photos of Amelia and Sophie, Leanne's daughter, when we were in Porto. So this is a continuation of the previous video I did. We'd stopped at a cafe and they were eating these beautiful chocolate croissants, which they really enjoyed, and their faces are just a picture. So I took a series of photos and then I printed them out in 3x4. So I've added 4 photos to a 4x6. No, so sorry, they're 2x3 because I've added 4 photos to a 4x6 photo paper. I just use a Becky Higgins Project Life app to do that. I find that the easiest way to do it, and I wanted to create 2 little film strips using the 2 photos. So I've just matted them onto some white cardstock, and then I'm cutting them out as one block, and then I'll mat that onto black cardstock afterwards, and they'll look like little film strips there. So I'm once again using the Vicki Boutin Where To Next collection. I love this collection, perfect for travel, and the bright colours really work nicely with the young characters in the photo. So I'm just cutting this down. I think I did 1/4 of an inch on each side because I want to mat it onto some white cardstock just for a bit of rigidity. It's quite a flimsy paper. It's from the paper pad, and I also really like the look of that white border as well. It just adds a little bit more interest. So I'm just dotting, as you can see, my ATG tape around the edge to get this stuck down. I'm always apprehensive doing this because it does stick very well, so if you don't get it straight first time, it's a struggle to sort it out. So I thought maybe by adding dots rather than full-on strips of ATG tape, it might make it a little bit easier. So I'm just going around now and curling up and roughing up the edges. I'm using my fingernails, but I do reach for my edge distresser just there to help me do this. So it's now a mixture of fingernails and edge distressing. I'd luckily added the tape nicely inside the lines, so it was easy enough to do. So just finishing off that last little bit, just checking that I'm happy with everything here, and then I can get those photos situated. And you can see I've already pulled out some of my scraps on the left hand side there. I wanted to use some more solid colour blocks underneath these photos because the pattern paper behind is quite busy. So first of all, just matting the photos onto the black, as I mentioned. You can see this is a scrap that I use for punching various things. I think I've done some photo corners to use as chevrons, and also some of those lovely hole reinforcers that I tend to use a lot on my pages. So just getting that cut out, and then I'll start layering the papers behind. I do faff about a lot, don't I? I'm sorry. I find it easier to have the photos on the right hand side of the guillotine because then I can work out the spacing. I think it's just what you're used to, isn't it? You get used to doing something a certain way. So first of all, I pulled this yellow stripy paper out, and I was considering using that as a mat, but I do change my mind in a little bit. I really wanted to use this orange. It goes perfectly with those photos. And I definitely wanted to use some of the navy blue as well. So just trimming down a bit of that navy blue, and then sorting out how to get the best from this orange piece. It's a cut apart on the other side. That's why it looks a bit odd, the way things have been cut out of it. So just trimming that card off there, and then I shall cut this down to size. And I keep bringing the photos back just to check that I'm happy with the sizes of the pieces of paper that I'm cutting. So I cut a strip of this yellow, and I think I'm going to layer that up with the navy. But in fact, when I do that, I've got this stepped look, and I wasn't really happy with that, and I just couldn't work out how to position the papers. And when I was messing around, I pulled the yellow away, and in fact, I preferred the look of it without that solid block of yellow. So I considered bringing this piece in, but I wasn't quite sure, so I keep messing and fiddling. And you can see, I know it's not right, but I can't work out what it is that I need to do to make it right. So I'm still trying, and I'm thinking maybe if I trim that torn edge off that pink and white grid, that might work. So here we go. I try and trim that off. And bring that back in again. And it definitely looks better without the torn edge, but I'm still not convinced. I think it's a bit too white against the solid colours that I've got going on there as well. So I'm bringing in some other little scraps to see if I can get them to work and make it look better. Maybe on the other side. No, I don't want to cut any more paper, so I move my guillotine out the way. And this is where I strip it right back. I just can't work out what to do. So I pull the yellow paper off and I think, oh gosh, actually that's much more pleasing without that yellow there. And then I see this smaller piece of yellow, which I just want to add behind as a mat. It's not quite long enough or wide enough, so I'm just going to tear it in half and add a little bit to the left and then the other piece to the right. So I will have to use my T-square just to make sure that those edges line up. But I'm much happier with this now, and I've brought in one of my bumpy borders from Hey Little Magpie. That's one of our dies, and I've just die cut some black scrap cardstock to add here. So yep, very happy with that. So I'm going to start distressing everything as I usually do, just to create a little bit of texture. And you can see that that starburst on the background is really quite distressed looking. And also, of course, I've distressed all the edges around that where it's laid on top of the white card. So I just want to repeat that on these pieces. Trying desperately to remember where I had things because my memory is terrible, and you see something and then you move it and then you think, oh, where was it? So I'm sticking that to the blue and then distressing the edges of the blue, just so that I don't distress pieces unnecessarily. I only need to go as far as where that orange mat is. And then I can stick that onto the yellow. Oh, I do actually distress this first. You see, there's no rhyme or reason. Just sort of go with the flow. And then I tuck that under, and then I can use my T-square when I go ahead with this one, just to check that it's all straight. So it doesn't take a second to distress those edges. And I'm just adding some ATG to get that stuck behind. And here's that T-square ruler, so I'm just checking that everything's straight onto my layout, and then I can add that in, just like that. Much better. So the piece on the left hand side is definitely too wide for me at the moment. I want to narrow that down, but first of all I stick this black doodle border, bumpy border. So I'm just going to stick that to the mat behind, and then I'll add the bottom piece. And you can see again I've just torn that in half because it'll be hidden behind the photo. I just wanted it to extend a little bit further, so rather than cutting another piece, I just tore that. Nobody will ever know. So there are the two photo strips down, and this is where I decide that yellow just needs to be a little bit shorter. So rather than chopping it off and re-distressing, I just move it in a little bit. And then have to come in again, of course, with the T-square to make sure it's straight once again. But there we go. Didn't take a second. So I decided I do want that yellow to overlap slightly onto the white cardstock, just to create continuity really, and so that it doesn't look just like a picture frame around the edge. And here we go, my ATG ran out right in the middle of filming. Isn't that always the way? So replace the ATG, and I'm just sticking that down to the layout, and then I can start to work out how I'm going to embellish. So first of all, this is ephemera pieces and also papery pieces. Some of the papery pieces are in here. Straight away I find these word strips, and so I start with one that says I've been waiting for this, because it's exactly how the girls look, like they were ready for this breakfast. So just stick that down to the left of the photos. Then I find these trainers, they look like Converse, and we did a lot of walking on this holiday, so I thought they worked really nicely as well. So just adding that there. So I'll stick that word phrase down because I know I want to add that to the left. And then I'll work out what else I can add. So sticking those trainers down, or sneakers if you're in the US. Just making sure I'm happy with the placement. And then looking through to see what else I can find. I find this little tag with the hearts on, so I'm going to add that to the top of the page. And then this banner is just perfect. It says sweet treat, so that has to be used, doesn't it? So I'm going to raise it up onto foam pads just to create a little bit of difference in height on the page. The photo strips are really quite raised because they're onto white cardstock and then black cardstock, and they're on top of all these layers of paper. So I just wanted to create a little bit more height as well with that. And then tucking this tag in and bringing it down a little bit. So I just want the 3 hearts showing because I wanted room at the top to be able to add some thread. So one of these little star paper clips from the paperclip pack. I really like those. They just add a bit of whimsy, don't they? And then this is from the 6x8 paper pad, and it just says noted. And I wanted to have somewhere to put my journaling, so I thought that would work really nicely. So just getting that stuck down there as well. And that's creating another layer for that background as well, which I like. Just having to pull up those trainers slightly. And then, of course, roughing up the edges. So now another one of those paper clips. This one says awesome, which is definitely a word that the kids use a lot. So just trying to work out where to put it, and it does end up on that journaling card, just sort of tucked halfway in. So I just add a bit of glue to keep it in place, and then I can have my journaling. So just seeing what else I can find. I like this little, what are they called? Rosette. So I think that's going to go at the bottom there, but I wanted something to anchor it with, and I found this lovely big camera. So I'm just going to layer that over the camera, just as something of interest at the bottom of the page. So rather than using wet glue on this very thin papery piece, I am reaching for my ATG to get those 2 stuck down. So this is a star that I die cut ages ago using my dies, and it was just hanging out in that box, but I thought it would work really nicely, just another little embellishment there. So I stick that down there, and then I reach for that word phrase that I'd cut from that page at the beginning, and it says a collection of moments. So I'm just going to add that at the bottom underneath the word noted and just trim off the end. And I like how that extends the line out to the right hand side of the page. So coming in with some of that lovely grey wax twine that I've been using a lot recently. It's just hanging out on my desk. So while it's there, that's the thing that I reach for. I really need to start going through some other colours probably. Maybe. So just gluing that into place, and then I'm going to use my edge distresser it's the lid of the glue just to hold that in place, and also my scissors to hold it in there. The scissors blades didn't sit down, so I've used my water bottle to add that. So just journaled on that card, and then left a space at the top so I could add my roller date stamp to the top there. Look at me not using a tab for my stamp. And that's the layout done. I really hope you've enjoyed this. Thank you so much for joining me, and I shall see you again soon. Bye.